Welcome to the presentation on mobility, seating, control of environment, and physical access and its difficulties. I would like to open this PowerPoint and this presentation with a discussion on the symbol for accessibility and accessible parking. So as you know, physical access is marked with a symbol of a person on a wheelchair that is pretty static. Uh, I wonder if you can see any problems with that and what other symbols would you use. So take a minute or two and think about it. And before I show you the next slide, I want you to think of at least one idea how you would designate accessible places differently, not with a person on a wheelchair. And here's a few ideas that I would like to share. Actually, they're all fairly good, but my most favorite is the little person in the circle standing and just looking completely quote unquote normal. And also I really like the capital A for access. However, that is not going to work in all languages. Um, just like parking though is not the same in every language, but people got used to the idea that the P stands for parking and H stands for hospital, even though those words might be said differently in languages, in foreign languages, but everyone understands that internationally. So the capital A is just another example that people could get used to for access. Here is assistive technology continuum for leisure and recreation. The most simple ones are toys adapted with Velcro, magnet handles, and so on. There is a few companies that make, they don't call it accessible toys, they call it adapted toys for people who cannot, for example, push a little button or just use tiny little pieces of something so they would put the handles on them. So it's really nice. All kinds of riding toys too can be adapted for people and children with physical disabilities so they can actually ride them. Then there are toys adapted for with switches. So if you cannot, press a tiny little something on a toy that's really hard to press, you can have an external switch that starts it off on and turns it off. You can have adaptive sporting equipment. You can have, for example, a beeping ball for people who are blind and who play tennis or basketball, or volleyball even. You can have universal cuff or strap to hold crayons, markers, modify utensils. You can have arm support for drawing and painting, electronic aids to control operate TV, or more advanced. And this list goes from the most low-tech to the most high-tech devices. You can have software to complete art activities, even games on the computer and other computer software. Here's a continuum for daily living, again from the most simple ones, which are non-slip materials to hold things in place, or straps and cuff systems to hold items, color coding, and then you have all kinds of adaptive eating devices, drinking devices, dressing equipment, devices for hygiene, bathing, cooking, and driving. It's pretty neat what people thought of to make our lives easier, and these can be used for with anyone, not only people with disabilities. When it comes to life skills, here's two companies that produce software that teaches skills of toothbrushing or going to restaurants. So one is the Attainment Company, and the other one is kidaccess.com, and they just have all these either software or real items to use daily activities to make choices, to understand expressions, to set calendars, to organize times, and so on. Really neat stuff. Here's a picture of 12 different assistive technologies for daily living. You can probably guess the use of some. And if not, just go to the outline and notes on this PowerPoint, and that will give you the description of all of them. They are used for, these are mostly used in the kitchen for cooking, and also some, you can see some tools for repairs. This is mid-tech daily living assistive technology. These are mostly used for opening things, different switches, different buttons to push when you need to turn whatever it is to turn on and off, from a fan to a radio to a TV to a toy. And here's another example of daily living assistive technology. It's a magnetic broom that can help you pick up anything that's metal for people who cannot bend so easily. And here is the next image shows what's called Adapt a Lab, a hands-free book holder or a portable desk that is really neat for people with low vision or after stroke, carpal tunnels, arthritis, weakness, or who are on wheelchair. You can see how chalkboard used to be all at one level, and now they are all accessible. You can move them up and down. Um, what we now use more is smart boards and Promethean boards, and you can also move these up and down, or choose where you are projecting. If you are just using a projector and a whiteboard, so then everyone can access it. Super easy idea is to use pencil grips. These are no-tech or low-tech assistive technologies. These are just super easy, simple grips. You can buy them in a dollar store. You put on pencils so that it helps students to hold a pencil. Um, there is all kinds of scanning softwares that gives you control of your environment. You can turn on music or TV or lamps or heating or air conditioning on and off with that. Today we could, if you have a smart home, you would have a voice recognition software such as Amazon's Echo's Alexa that you would give commands to, and she would do all that for you. So you don't even have to go anywhere or walk anywhere. You can just say it out loud the way you want your apartment to be or your house to be, and then it can all be operated electronically and virtually. Here is another image of adaptations for students with mostly physical disabilities for a classroom. So there's a few books and rulers. You can see rulers, you can see adapted scissors, adapted pens, pen holders, color-coded things. You can see interactive pens, so talking pens and pencils, a simple board that organizes activities, um, and all that. Here's a continuum for seating and positioning. We have also lots of activities, and here's a few simple ideas that we use for positioning and seating and mobility. From all kinds of different seats and wheelchairs and alternative chairs and walkers to bars and rails and powered mobility toys, scooters and carts, and also wheelchairs with joystick and adapted vehicles that people thought of. Even from early childhood, if there's a child that already has physical difficulties, we use what we actually use for with other children. And but in addition to that, you have some adaptive toys and playing areas, and something to make it more challenging for a child to roll, for example, or to grab and reach for things that they are not doing, for example. So this is just to help them do that. Here you can see an adapted workplace, an adapted workstation with a little stool for your feet and chair that has an extra special pillow and arm supports for both arms and elbows. People with mobility issues use lots of switches, from a simple Big Mac, which is the blue computer, the blue switch to sip and breath switch, if that's the only thing you can move on your body, if that's your breath or kind of sucking motion, then that can be your switch. To a head switch or a chin switch or a little fun ladybug switch or a huge soft rubber ball switch for people's hands. And these again plug or electronically transmit to anything that can be turned on and off and also navigated like an on-screen keyboard, for example, people can use with all these switches. Um, when you when you are trying to decide what kind of switch a person would use, you have to consider always what kind of what part of the body the person can move, if that would be activating the switch, and if the person is able to produce the amount of pressure required by the switch, and whether also the switch would be durable for that person. Here is a lot of switches for that you can access learning tools when people have physical difficulties. Again, lots of switches and lots of different kind of on and off devices that help you turn things on and off. Here's more adaptations for classroom participations. All of these things can be plugged to a switch with a cable. More and more you can see just interfaces with that don't use any cables and any batteries. So there is a few toys that you can turn on and off here. A clock, which is a spinner, a few books that read to you electronically out loud. So all of that can be adapted with switches. Here's a few more examples of switches. Scatter switch and P switch. They are real fine, and the P switch is the smallest switch you can imagine right now in the market, and the scatter switch is a very tiny little optical switch that has auditory feedback, and it is designed for people who experience difficulty in activating mechanical switches. So this is something that works with an eye blink, for example, or eyebrow movement, or a tiny little finger movement or head movement, and it works on an optical principle, so it can be activated at a distance. Here is a few latching switches and a power link that also has a latching device. As you can see, the power link plug. And here's the last picture that also has switches connected to different toys. More and more these would not be using cables and batteries, but would be infrared. So they can be used at a distance. But if you remember or if you watch the TED talk on different bionic devices and prosthetic devices, you could see how scientists are now able to use all kinds of sensors in our body and make these super awesome cosmic suits where we would even just think of a movement and that would operate, or that would activate a switch in a fabric that is covering our body. So I think more and more we would see something like that rather than traditional switches with cables. And this is the end of the PowerPoint. There's 3 PowerPoints total, so you might want to take a coffee break if you like to.